the surgeon examined her scalp, everything changed. She was told a strip of her scalp would need to be surgically removed. She was told that procedure was not possible for her level of hair loss.
BeautySeek is not a medical provider. This is not medical advice. Always consult a licensed professional.
Jeanie flew 14 hours to Korea, hoping to finally solve the hair loss she had been living with for years. She believed getting FUE, a minimally invasive procedure where hair follicles are removed one by one. But when the surgeon examined her scalp, everything changed. Instead, she was told a strip of her scalp would need to be surgically removed. Let's find out why. Jeanie, welcome, and thank you for sharing your hair loss story with the BeautySeek community. You flew 14 hours to Korea for a specific hair restoration procedure. You believe you were getting FUE, where hair follicles are removed and replanted one by one. You sat down for your consult, and the surgeon told you that procedure for you was impossible. What about your scalp made that impossible?
What I was told is that the density of my hair follicles on the back of my head, which is what would have been used as the donor site, there was not enough density of hair back there, basically. So by doing the FUE, he just said it wasn't possible because I didn't have enough hair follicles packed, concentrated into the area that he wanted to harvest the follicles from.
How did you determine that you were going to move forward with that more invasive procedure?
Well, like you said, I flew 14 hours. I had been wanting to do this hair transplant procedure for years and years. I had, heard about it online and know that they offered similar procedures here in the US, but cost-wise, it was quite a bit higher. And since I was going to Korea anyway on vacation, I thought it would be a great way to do a 2-for-1 and go ahead and get that procedure done while I was there. And I didn't have to take a separate trip to do it. And I planned a long enough trip that I could do all the procedures I wanted to get done and still have time to heal and enjoy the country. I was surprised when he said, and very disappointed, but he did say I was still a good candidate using the other method. So I learned about that and asked all the questions I could. And then once I learned about, the pros and cons of it, I decided to continue to move forward.
What questions did you ask?
I asked about the pain level, the healing process, how much longer it would take to heal, how big my scar might be, whether I would notice it, if there would be any issues with, because they do shave the back of your head so that they can extract the piece. Now it is hidden because they lift up all this hair up front and then they shave underneath. So because women have longer hair usually, it hides the donor site that they shave down. I mean, they basically buzz cut it, but it's about, yay big. So I asked all those questions because I didn't want to go back and, have a big chunk of the back of my head shaved down and noticeable.
Okay, so you would have hair on top that sort of covered the shaving. Mm-hmm. I shared with my colleagues that I was so blessed to be interviewing you. They were excited to hear that a woman is going to be sharing her hair transplant story. And so thank you so much.
Sure.
Let's back up a bit and talk about how many patients deal with hereditary thinning, but your story is different. Do you know what caused your hair loss?
I know exactly what caused it, and it was my freshman year of college. Now, I, similar to a lot of Asian women, had very thick, plentiful hair, all growing up, all through high school. I mean, it was just like silk, and I could wash it in a sink and then be ready to go because it was just that thick and nice. But when I got to college, my freshman year, something... I don't know, I had a bee in my bonnet and I really wanted to get a perm. Now this was early 90s. So I just thought, I want to get a perm just for something different. So I went to a local salon. It was not a very good salon. And they basically overprocessed my hair with the perm. They used too tight of curlers. They left the solution on too long. It was way too strong. So within 24 hours of getting that perm, my hair started I mean, I could feel that my scalp felt like it was burned. My hair started, it was just very crunchy and unhealthy. I was not happy with it at all. It was just the wrong type of perm for my hair and just my face. So then I decided, literally within 24 to 36 hours, to go to another salon on campus, which was also not a very good salon. But again, it was early 90s. I was 18. I didn't have a lot of money. I just wanted the hair straightened. So they didn't push back. They didn't ask me, how long ago did you get the perm? They just started applying the straightening solution. And so that double over processing caused my hair to break off, like right at the roots. And so all of this started to just break off. I had kind of like a punk looking, like shaved head look, because all the hair was just breaking off, but not out of the head. It was, breaking. So it was like a head of grass on top of my hair. So that caused a lot of just trauma. And, people thought, oh, she seems so conservative, yet she has this punk rock hairdo. Like, it was very, very incongruous with my, personality and such. But anyways, after that, because my hair was so crunchy and it had like a different texture to it because it was so damaged, I would find myself like pull it in brittle. My hair was very brittle. So I found myself starting to pull my hair out one by one whenever I was stressed, or maybe even just, in the library studying. I remember just like looking for pieces that were extra kinky or coarse and then just pulling them. And so that became a habit. And I actually realized that it is a form of OCD called trichotillomania. So I developed a very bad case of trichotillomania and started to pull pretty frequently from one spot, which was back here, as well as from the sides, which I also have a lot of thinness and baldness because the hair follicles were so damaged that they never grew back. And so the perm, the straightening, the trichotillomania that it caused, that is what caused my hair loss all the way from, 18 through, now. I mean, it's been 30 plus years. Luckily, my trichotillomania really pretty much went away. I would say every once in a blue moon, I might pull a hair out, but it's nothing like it was in college where I would look down and there'd be a pile of hair on the floor next to me, like a pile. But now it's not like that. It's not something that I do regularly. But I did still have the legacy bald spots at the sites where I would pull all the time. And so that, as I grew older and my hair just naturally became thinner, became more noticeable to me. And, I've always had long hair and I've always liked having lots of volume. And so, I tried all kinds of other things to counteract it, different like clip-in hair extensions, sew-in hair extensions, even like wig toppers. I mean, I tried everything to counterbalance the fact that my natural hair was not substantive enough for me to have the look I wanted. And so when I learned about a hair transplant and how it could be done in Korea very cost effectively and also very much, advanced technologies, and I knew I could trust facilities there because it is such a mecca for all kinds of plastic surgery procedures, I felt really good about doing it.
I'm so sorry you went through that. That is quite the experience. And yes, I went through a few episodes myself in college where I would bleach my hair completely white and it would be damaged for a long time. But honestly, a lot of women have overplucked their eyebrows and it doesn't grow back. So it's so great that there's a solution to actually regrow your hair, which is what you found. So that was in college. What made you finally kind of get to the tipping point where you thought, I'm going to actually do this?
I think stage of life, once I hit 50, I felt like, life is short. I should do what makes me happy, what makes me confident. And I had been using other substitute kind of hair supplements for years in terms of extensions and, things like that. So I felt like I really wanted something that would help my actual natural hair look and feel thicker so that I wouldn't have to keep, wearing so many fake hair pieces.
So let's jump to the surgery then. The solution is did you walk to this OR or did they move you in a wheelchair, or how did you get to the surgery?
I think we just walked. I was escorted by my English speaking concierge, my translator. So she was with me from start to end, everything from the pre surgery consultation. And then she met me the day of the procedure, took me to the prep area, and then walked me to the actual OR floor, waited with me. And so I walked in and, laid down face down on the table and told me what to expect in terms of the anesthesia. It was like, I don't know exactly what they called it. It wasn't full general anesthesia, but it was where you're like kind of in a twilight area where you can still hear what's going on around you, but you're very much heavily sedated to where you don't feel really much of anything and time just kind of flies. And so I was happy to have gotten that. And I really didn't feel anything.
That's nice. So you had someone holding your hand the whole time. You weren't alone, which is
Right.
fantastic. Before you got the medication, what was happening inside your head? What were you thinking?
Well, I was a little nervous, and my English speaking translator concierge was saying, "Oh, I'm kind of nervous for you. If it's too painful, just let me know. Like I'll be there." So she started to get me worried that I would feel a lot of pain because she was worried for me and she expressed it. Which I don't know that that was the best strategy for her to express that right before I walked in. But she just reassured me she would be there the whole time and to just basically raise my hand if I felt like I was in too much pain.
Let's take a brief pause. Hair loss can feel incredibly isolating, but you have the power to change that for someone you care about today. If you know someone silently struggling with their confidence, tap the share icon right now. Send them Jeannie's restoration story. Sometimes one simple message is the exact breakthrough they've been waiting for. Let's get back to the video.
Jeannie, when you entered the operating room for your hair transplant, what did you notice first?
I noticed that there was an entire team in the room, and the surgeon actually hadn't come in yet. So it was a team of three surgical assistants that were sitting along the side of the room at a table, and they were there to extract each hair follicle out of my strip of scalp that would have all of my hair follicles in it. So they would cut it out of the back of my head, about the size of maybe half of a 12-inch ruler. And then once they got it, I think they separated it into three different pieces so that all three of them could work on their segment. And individually, they very carefully pulled out each hair follicle so that the little bulb, the follicle piece at the base of it, would stay intact because that is what was then implanted into the top of my head. So they basically pulled it out of the piece of scalp and then placed it on a tray, a surgical tray, in nice, tidy little rows for the surgeon to then be able to use that and implant them.
Okay, so the size of your scalp that was removed from the back of your head was roughly like this, 6 by 1.
Yeah, that's about right. I don't know, a decent sized candy bar, I guess. Like a
That's like-
any candy bar.
They took a candy bar out of the back of your head. Great, fantastic. What did you feel? Anything?
I didn't feel anything. I mean, I was worried that when the scalpel hit my head that I would feel a sensation, but I honestly don't. I think by that point, the light anesthesia, half sedation just kicked in and I did not feel anything. And I didn't feel anything when the follicles were being implanted either, because I think that's also done with some sort of needle-like pen device, right? Where it's basically it has to get inserted into the surface of your skin, and did not feel any of that as well. So I felt like I was only in that room for 15 minutes, but I was really in there for an hour and a half. That's how out of it I was.
Okay, that's nice. Just to speed through that type of a procedure has to be great. So were you still heads down when your scalp was removed, and then did you remain heads down while they were inserting the follicles?
I think I might have turned on my back for when it was time for the implantation, because the site that he implanted everything was from here all the way back. And so I think he was sitting on a chair in front of my head, and I was then laying on my back so that he had full access.
Okay, so you needed to move mid-procedure, potentially,
Right.
if you're remembering correctly.
Well, possibly, or he might have just wheeled a chair around. Because I remember the table I was laying on, kind of like a facial or a massage table where there was a pillow with a cutout for your face. So now that I think about it, because the what was removed was back here, they probably didn't want me to like lay on it, because they did have to suture it and staple it back up. And so they did that, and then I think he wheeled around and sat down so that he could have access to this area.
Okay, so they sutured and stapled the scalp that was removed first, and then they moved to actually transplanting.
Yes.
Tell me about your scar. Is it relief? How can you feel it?
I
Do you
don't feel
notice
it.
it?
I don't feel it at all. I had my family members take some photos of it right after, when it was still shaved. So as far as I can feel and tell, there's nothing there. Like I don't feel a ridge. I don't feel any tenderness. I don't think I ever felt really any tenderness. It was the way that they sutured it up and then stapled it, it just healed very, very quickly. And I didn't have to worry about uh, being careful washing my hair because they actually shampooed it for me. I came in 3 different times and they had somebody, shampoo my hair with medicated shampoo. And I mean, literally, it healed so quickly. I was very happy with how little to zero downtime I really had.
That's amazing. So you don't even feel a relief kind of area where the scar is. That's amazing.
No,
Do you wear your hair up now?
no, because I have many rows of sew-in extensions. So I, have extension beads even down here. So I never wear my hair up. If anything, I'll just pull it back if I need to, do some heavy working out or something and I don't want all this hair in front of me. But I never wear a high ponytail.
So when you first, the procedure was over, what was the first thing you remember?
Well, I was in the recovery room, which is a little bit down the hall from the OR, and I was very kind of still loopy and foggy and was kind of rambling a lot. And my translator concierge was right there in the same room. So I think it probably took me a good 45 minutes of just laying there to truly become fully awake again. So I don't really even remember getting over to that recovery area. They might have wheeled me over, I don't know, but I was able to lay down and I was comfortable and it was a private room. And so, yeah, it was a good transition from being in the operating room to having time to come to fully in the recovery area. And then I was able to go down to the main like reception area.
And then you left, so there was no overnight. This was an outpatient
No, I mean,
procedure.
I think I took the subway back to our Airbnb.
Oh,
Even
fantastic.
though I had like what looked like almost a maxi pad on the back of my head, it was like a big, thick, cottony, bandage with surgical tape holding it to the back of my head. So I looked kind of crazy, but luckily, Korea, it's very widely accepted that people get a lot of procedures done all the time. And so you'll see people walking around in public with full nose braces or like chin like bandages or full like head bandages. Like no one thinks twice about it because it's just a part of the culture there and it's widely accepted. So no one stared. I didn't feel out of place, walking around out on the sidewalk with this big bandage on the back of my head.
A quick reminder before we continue. Choosing hair restoration is a deeply personal journey, and there is no need to rush it. If you are considering it but aren't quite ready yet, tap the save icon on this video right now. Bookmark Jeannie's incredible transformation and keep it as your personal inspiration. It will be right here waiting for you, exactly when you are ready to take that step.
Jeanie, after your hair transplant surgery, what were the first 48 hours like?
I would say it didn't really break up anything that I normally would have done. We were there on vacation. I was still able to go about my business, go to shops, go to see some sights. Um, I was supposed to come back the very next day for my first shampoo, So I was not able to wash my hair that first night, which was totally fine because I still had the bandage on. But it was a normal day. I didn't feel any pain. They did send me to their on-site pharmacy to get some painkillers and I think what's similar to maybe Advil or something. So they sent me there to pick up some meds in case I needed it. And they said, I think some of it was antibiotics as well, all in pill form. So it was all in Korean, but they just said, take one of these every day for the next week or whatever. But I never felt any pain. There was nothing that then started to throb or become agitated or painful after the surgery. So I was really happy. I don't even know if I needed the pills. I mean, I took them for a couple days, but I never felt any pain.
That's amazing. Pain-free. It sounds like bliss. What did your scalp feel like? Did you touch it at all?
Well, there was still the bandage on there and then the surgical tape holding it. So I didn't really touch the actual site of the donor site, but I was able to very gently touch the top of my head where the follicles were implanted to, and it felt like a very tiny, densely packed, prickly, like line of grass, so I was very happy about that because there was a lot. And my surgeon told me his initial thought was that he would be able to transplant 1,000 follicles, and each follicle has more than one hair growing out of it. Some of them have two, some of them have three. So his goal, based on examining me before, was that he would be able to transplant 1,000. And after the surgery, he said he was actually able to get 2,000. So I was super excited. And that's how they give you the price up front. And he said, they weren't going to charge me extra. It was a nice surprise that they were able to harvest more follicles than they expected. And so he just implanted them all. And so I'm glad he did. So he really gave me my money's worth. But I could definitely feel the short little, what felt like grass when it was hair.
Did you have swelling? Any kind of swelling?
No, nothing.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. So it sounds like a very blissful experience. Jeanie, is it important? Did your surgeon tell you it was important to keep the grafts hydrated as the scalp healed, or what did they give you to kind of just take care of it?
I think they did say not to do heavy workouts to where I'm sweating like profusely within like the first week, which was fine. And then they gave me some medicated liquid shampoo where you actually like spray it and it kind of basically it's more of an antibacterial solution just to keep the site nice and clean. But again, because they were including the nurse shampoo 3 times after my procedure, I didn't have to worry about washing my own hair. And the center was located close enough to our Airbnb that it was just a little 15-minute, subway ride. So I was very happy that I didn't have to worry about washing my hair and, being careful not to displace or disrupt anything. And, they did it all for me. So, yeah, the aftercare was very smooth. I did not feel any pain. It didn't cause me to have to change my normal routine. And I was still able to fully enjoy my vacation. There was nothing that kept me housebound or laying down or anything.
That's fantastic. And it's so lovely that they shampooed your hair for you.
Yeah, it was very luxurious. I felt like one of those older, like socialites that get their hair washed and curled, twice a week.
So you went to Korea for a spa trip.
Yeah, beauty tourism for sure.
Beauty tourism. Okay, I love that. Were you worried at any point that the new transplanted hair would not grow?
I chose to have full faith because the whole hair transplant industry, as well as how long the doctors in Korea have been doing that procedure, has been around for a while, that I knew it wasn't exploratory or, experimental. I knew it was a proven method. And, really, when you think about it, as long as the follicles are healthy, and all the follicles that they pulled out of my scalp back here were clearly had hair growing out, right? So I was very hopeful. I did not fear that it would not work. I mean, obviously I was a little careful with anything up here in terms of, I don't typically wear headbands or anything like that, but I, just made sure I was giving a wide berth to this area, making sure that there wasn't any heavy, like scratching or anything like that. But that was totally, totally fine. And, um, I would kind of pat it like regularly just to see if it was still there and, whether it was like getting taller. And, it's been, I think I got the procedure done at the end of October, like October 29th or so. And now my hairs that were implanted here are maybe at least 2.5, 3 inches long. And when I go and see my hairstylist here, I asked her, like, do you feel like there's new hair growth there? Or is it just breakage of, my own hair from, coloring and bleaching? She goes, oh no, it's definitely new hair.
That's so fantastic. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. When you were patting, did you feel at some moment, oh, now it is indeed growing? Was there a moment where he was like, oh yeah, it is, it's all good?
I mean, I feel like it's been at least 6 weeks, maybe longer, where when I pat it, it doesn't feel like really short grass, right? So I don't feel that anymore because the hair, and I think I went through a transition period where the pieces that were like 2 to 3 inches were kind of doing like a weird, flyaway thing. And so I would just use a little pomade to kind of get them to lay a little flatter. But the goal is that as they grow longer, that they will then grow to the side and then make all this thicker too. So, all the hairs that were embedded into my hairline here are going to grow up and then down. So I think in like a year, because, hair grows on average of 1/2 inch a month. So in a year, it'll be, 6 inches long, and in 2 years, it'll be 12 inches. So I'm really excited for that time period because then it will add to the overall thickness of my hair.
Exactly. Okay, so you're not quite at a point where you're looking in the mirror saying, I look so totally different, or do
Right.
you feel okay?
Well, I do take photos, progress photos at the top of my head because before the procedure, when I would do that and look at the photos, I would be kind of scared and shocked because I would see so much of my empty scalp because there was so, just was not dense hair. Like I am always so envious of people who have a really thick hairline right here to where you can barely see any scalp. It's just all tightly packed hair. And so I would take photos of myself every, couple weeks to see if this balding area seemed to be more dense looking, and it definitely has. Like now when I take a photo, like I just took one this morning and looked at it, and it feels like a normal hairline and looks like a normal hairline now, and not something where you immediately think, oh, that person has some hair loss or they've got bald patches. And that's what I saw before the procedure when I took pictures of the top of my head. And now it's looking pretty normal.
I think that's great. Okay, fantastic. Nothing but a good experience. A great experience is what it sounds like to me in terms of hair restoration.
Yes.
The beauty community is very interested in being informed so that they can make the right kinds of aesthetic decisions for themselves. What questions do you think that patients considering hair restoration procedures should have answered before booking the procedure?
Maybe asking, how much. I didn't need any downtime, but one thing that went through my mind is if I hadn't already planned to be in Korea for 3 weeks, because some people may only have the time or the vacation left to go for 1 week, so really making sure that you book the procedure as close as possible to the front of your trip as possible so that you can go back to the facility for follow-up appointments. I did have to go back within a week so that they could remove the sutures and the staples. So you don't want to jump on a plane and go home the day after your surgery because then you'll have to find another facility in your hometown that will deal with, a medical thing that some other provider did, which might be kind of tricky. I think providers of either medical service or even aesthetic services, they don't necessarily like to come in after the fact because of liability or whatnot. So make sure that timing wise, you're able to book a procedure as close as possible from when you first get there so that you do have some time to do the aftercare treatment within that facility before you get back on a plane to come home.
That makes sense. The timing of it, timing of the whole before after procedure is critical.
Yes. And
Well,
also,
go ahead.
timing wise, if you're going to get some other procedures done while you're there, because it is the like capital of, beauty tourism and so much advanced technology there. While I was there, I started to learn a little bit about a procedure that was around jaw contouring. But since I had already had my hair transplant, they could not do the jaw contouring because it would have required a bandage to be put around my chin and then secured at the top of my head. So they said, well, if you had known you were going to do that before, we would have scheduled that surgery before the hair transplant, and then it would have been fine. So I would say another thing to ask about is if someone wanted to do another procedure, how that would impact, the healing or even just, getting in the way in terms of the site with the hair transplant. So definitely ask if you're doing more than one procedure, can I have the hair transplant first? Should I wait until after? I think those are some of the bigger questions. And also, making sure that you have a very proficient English speaking translator or whatever language is your native language so that you feel very comfortable the entire, I can understand Korean a little bit, but I certainly can't speak it fluently. And I did feel a little anxiety that all this stuff would be going on in, a surgical capacity that I would not understand what was happening or what was being said. But that completely was not the case because I did have my English fluent translator with me from point A to point Z the entire time.
Okay, did you hire that person separately or they were just...
They are provided with, and I think it's a great move for surgery centers there. They do know that a lot of patients will fly in as part of a beauty tourism kind of endeavor. And so they know in order to keep their client base growing and big, that they need to have a full staff of multiple language speaking translators. And so my English speaking translator said that they basically have somebody that can speak any language really in the world that, might be coming for a procedure, who speaks fluent Korean and fluent whatever the native language is of the patient. So whether that's Japanese or Chinese or, French. So it was really cool that that's just part of their business model. And it just immediately put me at ease that I would never have to miss any important conversations or questions from the doctor or inside the OR or aftercare, pre-care. It was seamless. And I didn't have to use Google Translate to understand anything. Like it was literally a person who was used to dealing with doctors, knows the procedures, understands, some of the things that I care about and was able to convey that to the doctor.
Did that person, so they were in the OR with you translating, were they speaking to you and telling you what was going on, or was it just kind of you were in another world?
I had questions when I first got in there, and I actually wanted her to take a photo of me because I wanted to see what the site looked like, all prepped and shaved. And so she said, facility rules wouldn't really allow, photos to be taken, but they did allow one photo taken of the back of my head once it was shaved, just for my own kind of archival purposes. So yeah, she was very much in the room right by my side, answering any questions, checking to see if I was okay. I'm sure she probably checked in during the procedure to see if I was fine. And I probably was blabbing about, unicorns. I don't know. I was in such a la la land, but she was there. She never left my side.
I love that. Can we talk about the removal of the staples and the stitches? Let's just go through that experience a bit because that kind of freaks me out getting staples pulled out of your head.
It actually didn't hurt at all. Like I could feel it coming out, but it didn't feel like somebody taking a set of pliers and like ripping something out of the back of my skull. It was the nurses that did it just were so gentle and literally didn't, I could tell it was happening, but I've had worse experiences with stitches coming out. This just wasn't even, maybe it was a 1.5 to 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 of me noticing it even.
Anything that you'd like to share with the Beauty Seek community, with women, men who are looking for hair restoration solutions?
I think that Korea is definitely a very strong country to look into. I know that Turkey also does a lot of hair transplants, but I think Korea, I felt more comfortable just because, my mom was with me and that's, her native country. And I just had a lot of trust in that culture and kind of their industry, their medical and plastic surgery industry. But I would say, yeah, I looked into it, did a lot of research, was on Reddit late nights, just reading other people's reviews. I really was interested in hearing about people that came from the US to go there for the procedure because I think that would have been most similar to my journey. And so I picked the place that I did based on several reviews that I read online about people that went and how the translation happened and how comfortable they felt. So I would say do research because there are lots of options. The center that I went to was a huge, huge facility. They probably had almost 100 surgeons on staff, all specializing in different procedures. So whether it be rhinoplasty or breast augmentation or hair transplants, which I really liked because then that the surgeon that you get, really all they do is the procedure that you're getting them for. They're not general purpose, surgeons. So they've seen it all, they've seen all types, and they're really, really good at what they do. And I never was made to feel like a number. I just can't say enough good things about it. And I know that there's lots of facilities like that in Korea, but do the research and feel really comfortable. And I actually did start talking to my concierge before I even got to Korea. She and I were messaging each other on WhatsApp. So she was able to prep me for, what to do in advance of getting there, the instructions on exactly what floor to meet her on. There was just a lot of communication before, during, and after. And so I never felt like I was bothering her if I had a question, like, in the middle of the day, I would just shoot her a message on WhatsApp and she would respond back.
That's amazing service and support, and I love that. And I hope that this interview will be something that hair restoration beauty seekers who are interested in hair restoration will find benefit in because you shared so much with us. Thank you so much. Thank you for reliving your hair transplant journey with our community, from consult to being told no by your surgeon to boldly saying, yes, remove a strip of your scalp, the scarring, the waiting, the emotion, and ultimately the success, your hair regrowth. A strip of Jeannie's scalp was removed. The donor hair was transplanted into her hairline. There was uncertainty, and then there was regrowth.
Here's a truth you need to hear. An informed decision is your best protection. Before you even think about writing a check for any hair restoration procedure, you need the facts. Go to the comments right now and type the word restore. When you do, we will privately send you the 10 critical questions you must ask any specialist. Type restore below and don't spend a single dime until you read them.